China has mandated all students studying at foreign universities online through the pandemic return to campus for the start of semester. It's left thousands of students scrambling to book flights and accommodation to return to Australia. Joining me live is the National President of the Council of International Students Australia, Oscar Zishalong. Thank you very much for your time. It seems to have been a shock. Did many people see this coming though? How much of a scramble is this for students trying to get to Australia?
No, as you mentioned, rightfully so, there's a lot of issues there. There's flights, accommodation, and also visa. And a lot of them probably wouldn't already have a visa because they didn't anticipate this. PACSA did give international Australian students around a year to prepare to come back to Australia. But however, the sudden announcement, even though welcome, because we do prefer face-to-face education over online education, but the sudden announcement is just too hard for students and we're talking about a 3 weeks time frame as well for them to get back and start their studies in semester one, most of them.
What's the mindset of students? Because you mentioned that a lot of them are scrambling to get out here, but have some students sort of decided, well, it's a bit inconvenient to go all the way to Australia, I'd rather do an online course, or are most keen to get back and get the whole experience?
Well, I don't think they really have a choice when the Chinese government came out and said that, they don't recognize online education. And in fact, flight availability is also another huge issue as well, which I forgot to mention, that since COVID happened, the flight availability to Australia has always been an issue. So they just got to do it, especially those final year students, which really need to finish their degree after 2-3 years of pandemic and lockdown. They just need to finish their degree, so they're really put in a really tough position, and they just have to buy those flights, even though however much expensive it is.
Yeah, so that's not great, but flights top up at a certain amount, and obviously the visa issue, if that's sorted, you're out here and that's all fine. Is accommodation the big issue? I mean, it's been a while since we've had a big glut of overseas students, and China adding to that mix now, and since COVID, we've now got this rental crisis in a lot of the cities. They'll be trying to...
Yeah, look, accommodation has always been an issue since COVID, because we have lesser student accommodation, because back then international students weren't here, so there wasn't that much need. So we have student accommodation providers increasing number of beds, which is why we have working with the student accommodation services to introduce and pass program as well, just to ensure the students are protected. But because of all those beds in those student accommodations, big purpose building are already filled up, it forces students to go to the private rental market. And we know it's really tough now. It's really, really expensive. And on top of that, we have really a lot of dodgy landlords as well, which exploit international students due to a lack of legal knowledge, because as you would expect, they first come to Australia, they wouldn't know much about the legal system here. So they put in a lot of dodgy contract terms. When we have heard really, really bad stories that students get evicted even after the first week and losing their bonds.
What's the solution? I mean, it's not as though universities are really able to expand, I don't think, their accommodation offerings. They're often in prime real estate. There's nothing cheap around them. Is there a solution at hand, or is it just a question of it's going to be tough to be a student in Australia and get accommodation?
Look, there are universities which provide pretty good student accommodation services, which actually help students to navigate these sort of issues in terms of ensure that they get to the correct rental. So the students need to really seek out to the appropriate support that is offered in their respective universities. I know University of Adelaide, we offer great student accommodation services, which actually help students to seek out accommodations that are not dodgy, if you will. To ensure that their rights are protected. But I do encourage them, if there is an option, go to student accommodation provider, because that ensures that quality assurance, most of them are NPAS credited, which means that it gives them that quality assurance that, they won't be ripped off, if you will.
All right. Oscar, interesting situation coming up. All the best for those students coming out here. Thank you.